This video is a sample from the Secret Guitar Teacher Interactive course, The 5 Main Elements of Music. The 5 main elements of music. Element number 2, Scales. Section 2.6, Understanding the Major Scale. Part 2, Circle of Fifths and Sharp Key Signatures. The key of C major has a very special place in the subject of music theory. Let's have a look at why that is. On a keyboard instrument, we can locate the note C as being the white note that is just to the left of the group of 2 black notes. To build the scale of C major, we now start applying the major scale formula: tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So let's add the note a tone up from C. That gives us D. Then a tone up from D gives us E. Now a semitone up from E gives us F. Another tone takes us to G. Another tone gives us A. Another tone gives us B. And finally, a semitone takes us back to C. And what I want you to notice here is that applying the major scale formula starting on the note C neatly avoids any black notes. Try applying the formula to any other note and you will quickly discover that C is unique in this respect. This is why most discussions about the rules of music theory tend to begin with the key of C major. It is a natural starting point because it has the simplest key signature: no sharps, no flats. Now we're going to move up the scale of C major 5 steps. The 5th note in the key of C is G. Let's see what happens if we build a major scale starting on G. To do this, we can take advantage of one of the few absolutely reliable rules in music theory. All major scales include one of each of the musical letter names: G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G in this case. So this means that using standard notation, we can simply start with the note G, then add notes space, line, space, line, space, line, etc. until we arrive at the G an octave higher. But if we now analyse the intervals in this scale, we can see that it doesn't quite conform to the major scale formula. We've got tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, instead of tone, semitone. And if we listen to this scale, we can hear that it doesn't sound quite right. To fix this, we simply sharp the 7th note. This is done by placing a sharp symbol at the start of the stave on the top line, the highest position on the stave where the note F is found. This key signature tells the musician to play all F notes as F sharp notes. It's important to realise that this applies to F notes in any octave, not just the ones on the top line. So now our G scale sounds like this. And we can see that the formula is now correctly represented as well. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. We're presenting this information like this because we want you to understand that the purpose of a key signature is, 1, to maintain the integrity of the rule that all major scales must contain one of each letter name, and 2, to ensure that notes in a major scale conform to the formula tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Holding on to these 2 facts as you progress with your study of music theory will help you solve a number of problems that otherwise often cause confusion. Now let's continue on our journey round the circle of fifths. 5 steps up the key of G takes us to the note D. Analysing the intervals between the letter names starting on the note D shows up 2 departures from the major scale formula. Got tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone. These can be fixed by sharpening the notes F and C. At this stage, I think it is worth panning out a bit and looking at what we've discovered so far. In the key of C, we discovered that no sharps are needed. The notes provided by the letter names are already arranged according to the major scale formula. We move up the C scale 5 steps and look at the key of G. Here, we need to sharp the 7th note, F, in order to preserve the correct arrangement of notes. We move up 5 steps in the key of G and we come to D. To arrange the notes in this key to align with the formula, we retain the F sharp from the previous key and also sharp the new 7th note, which in this case is C. So a pattern begins to emerge that has 3 attributes. Each key is built on the 5th note of the one that precedes it. For each key, we need to keep the sharps from the previous key. We also introduce a new sharp, which is always the 7th note. As we continue on from the key of D major, let's put this to the test. So rule 1, each key is built on the 5th note of the one that precedes it. So our next key will be A major. Rule 2, for each key we need to keep the sharps from the previous key. So we'll retain F sharp and C sharp in the key signature. Rule 3, we also introduce a new sharp, which is always the 7th note. We'll add G sharp to the key signature. Let's check the outcome. By checking the intervals, we can see that this system works consistently. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. To continue, we move up 5 steps in the key of A to get to E major. We keep the F sharp, C sharp and G sharp from the previous key and add the new sharp D sharp as note 7. Then we move up 5 steps in the key of E to get B as our next key in the circle of fifths. We keep the F sharp, C sharp, G sharp and D sharp from the previous key and sharp the new note 7 to give us A sharp as the new sharp in the key signature. Now we need to pay special attention because a bit of weirdness is about to creep in. First, let me ask you, what is the 5th note in the key of B major? If you said F sharp, then go to the top of the class. But I'm betting a fair few of you would have fallen into this bear trap and said F. This is a common cause of confusion among music theory students. So our next key in the circle of fifths is F sharp major, not F major. In this key, we retain the 5 sharps from the previous key, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp and A sharp. And our new sharp is actually E sharp, note 7 in the new key. But, I can hear you ask, isn't E sharp really the note F? And I have to say, yes, it certainly sounds the same as the note we know as F. But we can't call it that when we are in this key. And this is because we have already used the letter name F for the note F sharp. Also, if we call the seventh note F, we would have left out the letter name E. So that adds up to 2 violations of the rule: all major scales include one of each of the musical letter names. You may remember back in element 1, when we discussed note names, we mentioned enharmonic equivalents. Here's a reminder. Enharmonic equivalents. An enharmonic equivalent is a note that is named differently but sounds the same. Below, we have included all the note names that you're likely to encounter and shown their enharmonic equivalents. Well, you can see that the note E sharp is included in my table under the heading Potentially Confusing Names, brackets, used rarely, close brackets. So the new sharp in the key of F sharp major really is called E sharp, even if it sounds a lot like F natural. As you journey on through music theory, you will appreciate that there is good reason for this little bit of weirdness. The final key we're going to check out for this lesson is the key of C sharp major, C sharp being the 5th note in the key of F sharp major. In this key, we retain the 6 sharps from the previous key: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp and E sharp. And our new sharp is B sharp, note 7 in the new key. So in the key of C sharp major, every single note is played as a sharp. We don't need to think too hard about whether this fits the formula or not, do we? Since every note from the C major scale has now been raised by a semitone, it makes sense that the notes have the same spatial configuration as the scale we started out with. So, to summarise, as we move from key to key round the circle of fifths, starting from the key of C major, we accumulate sharps in the key signature one at a time. The new sharp in each key is always note 7. But how can we make practical use of this information? Well, the trick is to add just one more piece of information. And that comes in the form of a mnemonic to help us remember the order of sharps that are accumulated as we move round the circle of fifths. Father Charles goes down and ends battle. Music in standard notation always shows the sharp symbols in this order. The order itself is a fragment of the circle of fifths, of course, something that will help us later on this course. In the next lesson, we'll look at 3 ways that you can use this information. As you work through these examples, the details of this system should begin to clarify, and before long, I think you will find the sense of complexity will be replaced by an appreciation of its elegance. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you'd really like to maximise your potential as a guitar player, click on the link in the description below to the Secret Guitar Teacher site. Here you can sign up for a 30-day trial free of charge and without obligation. We won't even ask you for your credit card number.